last minute decision on watching Captain Underpants.
I do, dude, I love you, bro, I love you, man, I love you. You're my homie, no one knows me.
Alright guys, so yes, I watched Captain Underpants, the first epic movie in 3D. And don't worry, I'll get to the 3D like I always do to tell you guys whether it's worth the extra cash or not. But let's get right on to the review. So in Captain Underpants, George and Harold, they're best friends. They like to pull a lot of pranks around their school, and they like to do comics. And their comics are usually based around the principal, Mr. Krupp, and they named it Captain Underpants because, you know, superheroes like Superman, they look like they're fighting in their underwear, so why not call it Captain Underpants? And of course, their principal, Mr. Krupp, is sick and tired of all these pranks being pulled around his school, so he decides that he's going to separate them into different classes. And while this is happening, George hypnotizes Mr. Krupp and turns him into Captain Underpants, of course, their comic. And while Mr. Krupp is Captain Underpants, he hires a really evil person to actually be the new science teacher, and that is Dr. Poopy Pants, and of course he is up to no good, so Captain Underpants has to stop him. Okay, when I heard that DreamWorks was going to make a Captain Underpants movie, I didn't know how to feel about this because it just didn't feel like DreamWorks. When I think about DreamWorks, I think about How to Train Your Dragon and Kung Fu Panda and what other great movies have they made, Shrek and all those type of movies. So basically, I just couldn't really see them making a Captain Underpants movie. And don't get me wrong, I like Captain Underpants, the books. I read some of them in elementary school. I didn't read all of them. I know there's a ton of books. I know they made a one with a baby and a dog. I haven't read those, but I read some of the books. And this movie is actually based off many of those books. Not just the first book. It has a combination of the third book, I believe, with Dr. Poopy Pants. And they really got really creative with this film. The voice talent here is really, really good, like, really surprising. We got Kevin Hart as George, who, I'm gonna say this, as much as I really like The Secret Life of Pets, and I like Kevin Hart in it, his character Snowball does feel like your usual Kevin Hart, but surprisingly, Kevin Hart here doesn't feel like Kevin Hart. He feels like he's playing a completely different character. Thomas Middleditch, who is Harold in this film, he is also much different than he is in his other movies or TV shows. He's a much different character here, and I just really like his voice acting here. When I heard that Ed Helms was going to provide the voice for Mr. Krupp, aka Captain Underpants, I just had a hard time imagining that. I'm not sure if he was the right person for this role, but wow, once you actually see this movie, like, he put out his best effort and energy into bringing this character to life. Nick Kroll, he plays the same character over and over again, at least I think so, but as Dr. Poopy Pants, I thought he did a fine job. I think he's probably, I mean, he really brings the character to life, but when I read the books, I just can't imagine Dr. Poopy Pants sounding like this, but he did a good job. But I think another standout in this film, and I can't believe they actually got him to do a voice in this movie, is Jordan Peele as Melvin. Yes, they got the director of Get Out to do a voice for a very important character for this movie. He, like, you don't even know it's Jordan Peele. Like, he disguises his voice very well as a kid, and, like, you just don't know it's him. The writing in this movie is really smart and just really talented. This movie is written by Nicholas Stroller, who directed both Neighbors movies and Storks. So, one thing that those three movies have in common is that they have some really good humor written into the movie. And just like those movies, this movie has some really good humor, like hysterical humor, that it's a bit of toilet humor, but it's also humor that is kind of like, it's immature humor, but it make the kids laugh, and there are some jokes that the adults will understand and that they'll basically just fly over the kids' heads. And there is some really good humor written into this movie, almost like the movies that Nicholas Stroller has directed. The animation here is really fantastic to look at. DreamWorks took the same route that Blue Sky took back in 2015 with the Peanuts movie, where they basically had this like clay look to the animation, and it just looks, I just like the animation. It looks really nice. And not only that, but there is some 2D animation as if they were like handwritten, like straight off the books. And this is just a huge throwback to the books of Captain Underpants. There was this thing called a fliporama, and if you know these books, you know what it is. It's basically you flip the pages and you see a moving picture. And they do that in this movie to basically describe one of the violent scenes in this movie. We also get a scene with sock puppets, believe it or not, and again, this movie just takes creativity to a whole nother level. Now, as for the 3D in this film, there's a little bit of both depth and pop-out 3D. So there's a ton of depth, and there are a few scenes, especially in the more action scenes in this movie, there is some pop-out. So I do recommend watching the 3D version. I think it's a very fun watch, so the 3D is worth it. As for the actual movie itself, sure, it never takes itself serious, and it's a little bit immature, but it's still a fun time at the movies, and I had a fun time watching this movie. And I'd say a matinee or discount day would definitely work for this movie, and that's why I'm gonna give it a B. If you watched the movie, and if you're a fan of the books, or read any of the books, let me know in the comment section down below. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.